Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deepest seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Good evening, everyone. Well, good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. and Happy New Year to you all. Happy 2025. Hopefully it's a successful one for you. Thanks for joining me live for this first in 5 live streams that we're doing ahead of BTEC National Business Unit 2, the next Unit 2 exam coming up next week. And as always, this time of year, we run a series of short live streams just to help refine students' exam technique and also answer your questions as we go. Could do it slightly differently this year, which I'll explain in a second. We've got over 200 people joining us live, so thanks for that. Any questions or comments, please use the live chat. I will try my best to respond to them as we go. If you're watching this later on catch-up, hopefully you found it useful. And if you're watching it in 2026, I hope you had a great year. So to explain what we're going to do this time, we're going to basically work our way through all the key assessment focuses or foci for Unit 2, but with a twist. Because I've written a new case study, a new practice assessment, but I want your efforts and your content to help populate these live streams, and we'll give you some feedback and give you a chance to actually have a go and practice getting ready for Unit 2. So let's get going then. This session will last about 35 minutes, no more than that. We're back again tomorrow at 5 p.m. I think we're then 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday and Monday. So it's every day. The fun never ends, as they say. Just to explain then what the 5 sessions are. Just checking you can hear me okay. Yeah. So we're starting with the research pack, the all-important research pack, and AF3. So the assessment focus 3, and there's a good reason for that, which I'll explain in a second. Then we're going to move on to SWOT and justification, AF4, and product lifecycle. We may touch on Pestle. I'm not a massive fan of Pestle. So we'll definitely do SWOT and product lifecycle, AF4. And then we'll move on to objectives and the marketing mix, as we'll explain tomorrow. You don't have to start with your objectives as long as you get them in there somewhere. And then a session on budget and timescale, followed by the last session on Monday, which will be a full answer walkthrough to our new practice assessment. And there is a reason why we're going through the research pack first, which I'll come on to shortly. Now, don't forget, the next sitting of Unit 2 is the 7th that we've had, where there is a research pack. And just put on the screen there, for those of you who are interested, the latest or the last grade boundaries, excuse me, for June 24. So don't forget, we're fighting for 70 marks. And, well, depends what you want to try and achieve. But back in June, 32 would have got you a pass, 43 a merit, and 55 a distinction. Does anyone in the live chat want to have a guess at what you think the average mark was in June 24? Have a go. I'll keep an eye out and see who's closest in the live chat. Shakina, I'll answer that question as we go through this session, so I'll keep that one for later. What do we think the average mark out of 70 was? Simple says 33. Hugo's going high, 46. Jensen pretty high as well, 45. Whereas Cerise is quite pessimistic, 7 out of 70. Well, let's have a look. The answer was indeed 36.6. So I'll give that to MZ and others. 37. Now, what we found in the last 3 papers is that students seem to have done better where the case study is a product-based business, for example, flasks and pet accessories. Not so well on businesses that are service sector businesses, but maybe that might change next time. If you were to get middle mark band 3, every assessment focus has 4 mark bands, then you get just short of 50 marks, which would almost certainly get you a merit. However, distinctions are like hen's teeth. My understanding is that 1 out of 100 scripts or 1 out of 100 candidates gets a description, roughly about 1%, which I actually think is outrageous, but very hard to get. But never mind, we are fighting for every mark we can get. Now, before we get into the research pack, just a quick reminder. I know a lot of you will be doing Unit 2 for the first time. Let's just quickly go through what I would call the nuts and bolts. Already seen a few questions coming through about the A4 sides of notes and the case study and that kind of stuff. So let's deal with those now. So in the afternoon next week, I forget which day is it Wednesday? Could be Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday and Wednesday. Next week, you'll have a couple of hours to take a look at what's known as Part A. And basically, you get given the research pack about the industry. And also, it's low control, so you can use the internet. You can do what you like, apart from getting help from your teacher or fellow students. It's low control. And the basic idea is to read the research pack and start to think about some of the issues and the themes for the case study, business, and the industry. And you are allowed to take away your 2 sides of notes. We'll come on to those 2 sides. Now, some schools and centres say, excuse me, you can't. Well, that's their policy if they wish, but you are allowed to work on them beyond the 2 hours. And then you take your 2 sides of notes back in, along with your annotated case study, to help get yourself ready for Part B, which happens the following morning, and it's a minimum of 3 hours. Obviously, some students have a little bit longer, depending on their particular arrangements. And the idea there is you are writing effectively 2 reports, but basically 1 report, Activity 1 and Activity 2, writing for your rationale, 34 marks, and your marketing plan, marketing mix and plan, 36 marks. We'll go through what that is. So that's what happens. You get given a research pack, and it's really useful, as we'll go through. But that's not everything. In Part B, you find out a lot more about the business. So I'll look through the questions as we go through. And by the way, thank you very much to Karen and others, experienced teachers who are also very grateful to you for answering questions in the live chat. Some fantastic answers coming in as well. So I'm looking out for those as well. Let's quickly just go through, before we get into the research pack and why it's so important, let's just go through those 8 assessment focuses or foci, just to explain where the marks can be earned. And this is why I've started with the research pack, as you'll see. So Activity 1, 34 marks. There are 4 assessment focuses or foci, and there are 4 marks going for structure. And on average, students get 3.5 out of 4. It's really not hard to get 3.5 out of 4 for any kind of a sensible structure for Activity 1. The harder marks are on aims and objectives, 8 going for that. The analysis of the research information and the consistent use of that information throughout your reports. there's 12 marks. And AF4, which is using our 2 models, whichever models you decide to use, 10 marks. Somebody's asking, will the videos be rewatchable? Yeah, every live stream we do is available on catch up as soon as it finishes. So you can watch it as many times as you wish. Now we'll come on to justification in a separate section. A number of people are asking about which models should you use. It doesn't matter. You can use any relevant models you wish, provided you use 2 of them. So the vast majority of students, 99.97%, will use a SWOT analysis. And until recently, a lot of students also did PESTLE, but increasingly students are using what I think is a better option, but you don't have to use it, using product lifecycle as the second of 2 models. But you do need to use 2 to give yourself the chance of getting 10 out of 10 or mark band 4 for AF4. And we'll go through AF4 and the justification and the questions around SWOT and product lifecycle and PESTLE in our session tomorrow, where we're going to go through that in some detail. And then we move over to activity 2, and this is why it's really important to look at that first assessment focus, the marketing mix. 20 marks out of 70. Too many students don't spend enough time, go into enough detail in that, and therefore they don't get, they might get 7, 8, 9 out of 20. Well, there's a lot of marks being lost there. You really need to be aiming, if you can, for sort of 14, 15 and above, if you can. And actually, just let me go back a slide. So I should have highlighted. On the right-hand side there, I've just highlighted why it's important to consistently use the research pack. So there is 12 marks for using the research, but that's not just one section in your report. It's consistent, sustained references and use of the research. So using it to support your chosen aims and objectives and explain why you've developed those, using it to identify the key themes impacting the business, using the research to identify opportunities and threats facing the business, where the industry or the business is in the product life cycle, perhaps if you're using PESTLE, what the economic and social and political factors are. All that information is in the research pack. Therefore, you need to use it across all of the assessment foci, including AF5, which is the marketing mix. And just can't emphasize this enough. It is by a distance the most important thing to focus on. If you're running short of time, you're always better off spending more time explaining what your marketing mix is going to be. The 4 Ps and then the 3 other Ps as well, in detail. What is your approach going to be and why? And how is that supported by the research? And how does that help contribute to achieving your stated aims and objectives? So the research is really, really important. A number of people are asking about the part A, 2 sides of notes. So just to explain, it's low control. The official line, the Pearson line is, you are allowed to work on the case study and the research pack in your own time before part B the following morning. So therefore, you can work on your 2 sides of notes and your annotated case study. However, there are some centres that literally have hundreds of learners taking Unit 2. And don't forget, when you go in to do Part B, they have to check your 2 sides of notes. Therefore, for good reasons, some centres say, sorry, we just wouldn't have time to check your 2 sides of notes, and therefore we'll only let you write them in the 2 hours of supervised time. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's the way things are. So you'll need to check with your own centre as to what you're allowed to do. Okay, so we've mentioned there this research pack then. So it's so important. There are 12 marks going for using the research, but you need to use it to help support your other parts of your reports as well. So it's so important. There have been 6 case studies so far that we've had a research pack for, where we've used this approach. And I've just listed them there on the screen. So the last one was Funky Flasks, which I've just said was a product, physical products, reusable drinking cups, that kind of stuff, plastic cups. And you had a £60,000 budget. And the aim was to increase sales. Back in Jan, this time last year, Best Dressed Hotels was a chain of budget hotels, a much bigger marketing budget. Back in June 2023, it was pet accessories, leads, and all that kind of stuff. And then before that, it was a skate park. So there have been six different businesses. We've no idea what the industry or what the business is going to be. Doesn't matter. You might look at that and say, is it likely to be a service? It could be, couldn't it? But it could be a product. We don't know. We simply don't know. But the most important thing, though, is whatever they give you, everything that's in the research pack is all that you need. You do not need to do any further research into an industry. Neither would you be credited for bringing your own research in. You only get credit for using the information you get given, which is the research pack. So what is in that research pack? Now, I've written a new one, but if you look back over the previous 6, they all follow the same structure, which is it starts with some secondary research. So typically 2, 3, sometimes 4 pages, no more than that, of information about, firstly, the industry or the market in which the business operates. So previously, last summer, it was the customizable drinking cups business, flasks business. So something about the market, lots of information about trends in the market, perhaps information about the sales value, growth rates, competitors, branding, innovation, all that kind of stuff, useful stuff. Some information about what are the products, who buys them, at what prices they get bought, all that kind of stuff. And then also you get quite a lot of information about competitors, who are the big players in the market, what kind of marketing do they do. Often you get given some examples of marketing campaigns that they've run recently. So that secondary research is by a distance the most important thing for you when it comes to writing your Unit 2 exam. Definitely the most important thing. You're going to be able to use it to identify, before Part B, what you think the likely opportunities and threats are. You'll be able to use it to help develop an understanding of your pestle, if you use pestle. There will be enough information in there to come up with, excuse me, a product life cycle analysis. Absolute gold dust is the secondary research, and you don't need anything more than that. So don't worry about doing any extra research. You don't need anything else. Only use the stuff that they are given. Next up, primary research. And what this is, it's just a simple page and a half of fictitious primary research. It's a question. It's the results of a survey or questionnaire, 5 or 6 questions that have been asked to a fictitious audience, a sample, and it's going to have useful information in it. Now, don't get hung up on the fact it's fictitious. Just use it as if it was real for the case study business. And of course, what's also important to there is to have a think about whether that research is reliable and valid. So look at the sample size, look at when it was conducted, how it's conducted, who they asked, how many people answered, all that kind of stuff, and use that to help write a comment on reliability and validity. And lastly, and this is the stuff you don't have to use, you can use your own information, but they also give you like a shopping list of possible pieces of promotional material. So, you know, some typical costs of maybe doing a marketing flyer or getting an influencer to record a video for TikTok, or advertising on Instagram, or whatever it is, attending a trade show. There's a shopping list of things that you could include if you wish. Don't have to use any of them or all of them in your, excuse me, marketing budget. So there we go. That's what you get. That's what you get in the research pack. Now, the research pack I've written follows exactly the same format, of the same length, same style as all the previous 6. And as Karen says, keep the chat Unit 2 focused for now. Thank you. Okay, so we've had a number of questions about these 2 sides of notes. Before we get on to this case study, and before I set you your first homework for these series of live streams, let's just answer these questions about what you can and can't do on your 2 sides of notes. Well, it's actually easier to explain what you're not allowed to do, which I've highlighted in yellow at the bottom. So you are not allowed to take in on your 2 sides of notes any pre-prepared marketing plan, budgets, or timelines. In other words, stuff you could just copy and paste into your reports. Now, that's all that the guidance, the official guidance says. In any event, why would you? Because even if you did, it would be useless. It would be a complete waste of time because you know nothing about the business. You don't find out about the business until you see Part B, when you go into Part B. And that is what tells you about the business. And therefore, that helps you decide which option to choose and what the aims and objectives are and the strengths and the weaknesses and all that kind of stuff. So you wouldn't, unless you're a complete muppet, you wouldn't try to pre-prepare a marketing plan, budget or timeline, because it's of no use to you whatsoever. But everything else you can do. The intention is to encourage you to analyze the information in the pack I mean, there's some people out there who say you're not allowed to analyze. That's complete nonsense. The whole idea is to use the two sides to help summarize the key issues and summarize some of the things that you might want to use in your campaign, and maybe have some aid memoirs to help you do things. So, for example, Kira's asking, can you prepare notes on SWOT product lifecycle? Absolutely, you can. You can use the headings. You can use an aid memoir to remind yourself of what the different stages are in the product lifecycle, or what SWOT means. You can have a table that shows the headings that you want to use for your reports. You can have a note next to them that says how many minutes you want to allow yourself, to give yourself a bit more time. You can jot down some of the key facts and figures, maybe percentage changes, highlight some of the competitors, highlight some of the issues, the themes. That's exactly what the two sides of notes was intended for. So that's what you're allowed to do. And the only thing you can't do is a pre-prepared marketing plan, budget, or timeline. So use those two sides of notes as effectively as you can. It's meant to help you draw together your thinking so that you don't have to go back over everything when you get back in the example. And don't forget, you've also got you've got your annotated copy of the research pack. So that's it. Two sides of notes. Now there is I've put a link on in the chat at the top, somewhere at the top, but also I'll put a link on the recording as to where, if you want to use it, you don't have to. This is a template that Mandy and I, who put our Unit 2 teacher training together, use very successfully across lots of centres. If you want to use that, you don't have to use that. You can use whatever you like, as long as it's not a pre-prepared marketing plan, budget, timeline. But it's a good old 2-page notes. Somebody's asking, what do you mean by pre-prepared marketing plan? Well, in other words, you write a marketing mix and then paste it in. Well, you can't possibly write a marketing mix until you find out what the business does. So it'll be utterly useless. You could write a budget. Well, so what? You don't know what your budget is. So you can't do it. It's just impossible to do anything useful in terms of pre-prepared stuff. So have a look at that two sides of that 2-page note. So maybe have a go at using it with our new case study. Now let's get into our research pack for the last, what have we got? We've got about another 10 minutes or so. Now, what I've done on the screen, I'll repeat this in all of the live streams just to give you a flavour for where students are dropping marks. I've just highlighted the research piece there, AF3. And as you can see, hopefully you can see that in June, on average, 5.5 out of 12 was the scores for the use of the research in your report. So that is there's a lot of marks being dropped. Students are getting better, to be fair, but still lots of marks being lost. And here's why. Or here's how you get 12. So the reason why students are losing marks for the use of the research pack is that they are not continuously referencing the research, using the research throughout the report, constantly referring back to something that's in the research. If you just mention it once in one section, not enough. You got to keep referring back to it. But you can't just write out what is in the research pack. You need to use it. So, excuse me, don't just copy and paste and think, oh, there we have to use the research. You've got to say, well, here's why it's useful. Here's how it helps me make a decision. For example, about price, or about a particular promotional part, or maybe something around, I don't know, the 3 Ps, or helping. It might explain why you've chosen a particular objective. So that's what we mean by sustained references to the research. It's not just copying the whole thing out. It's using it consistently again and again and again. Also, we need to consider the reliability and the validity of the research. So we do need an explicit comment within AF3 that says whether or not you think the research is reliable. Well, who's produced it? Where did it come from? Is it reliable? Hopefully it is. But if not, do you have a concern about it? Put down something about that. And also, how valid is it? Have they asked the right questions? Are there some questions that you think will be more useful? Maybe some information that would help you make a better decision. So as long as you have something in there that talks about those two things, then you're going to pick up the marks. Next, be selective. Don't feel as though you have to use everything that's in that research pack. There's no need. It won't get you marks. And you need to be selective. Pick out the key themes. Pick out something you think is important and then develop it and explain it. Much, much better to be selective and try and then to explain it and integrate it into your report rather than thinking, well, I'm just going to write everything I know about this business from the research pack. That's called writing everything you know about the business. There's no marks going for that. So it's really important to be selective, focus on the key themes. Fewer is always better than too many. Now, that's how you do it. We're going to have a practice now, except, as I say, this time with these live streams, I'm going to flip it a little bit and ask you to do some homework, have a go, because it's all about getting used to Unit 2, isn't it? Having a go, having a practice. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. So what I'm going to do for a few minutes, I'm going to guide you through the case study that I've written, just to explain a bit about what's in there. And then we'll close it. We'll close the session, and it's going to be over to you. I've got a couple of ideas for you to get in, for you to do a bit of work either today or tomorrow, ahead of our session tomorrow. But I really want you to have a go at this, rather than just watching and listening. Actually have a go at taking this case study and thinking, right, if this was it, how could I use the information that we get given? So here we go. There's a download link on the live chat. I'll make sure there's a download link on I think it's there actually, on the main YouTube link where this live stream is and also where the recording is. And I'll also pin that to the first comment on the recording. So over to you. We're going to read through. I'm going to take you through the research pack, 5 or 10 minutes just to show you what's in there. And then it's over to you. I'd like you to certainly have a go at maybe looking at two sides of notes and thinking, okay, what might I write down? Are there some things I can take from the case study? And then have a go at drawing out 1 or 2 key themes from the case study. And then let me know what they are, because what I'll do is I'll come back tomorrow at 5 o'clock and I'll put some of them on the screen, if you're happy for me to do that, and give you some feedback and try and showcase some of the great work that's going on so that you feel as though we're starting to work together on the case study. Okay, well, let's have a look at the case study. Let's see if I can get it on the screen here. Hopefully, is that showing on the, maybe you just put a yes in the comments just to say, or the live chat to say it's appearing on the screen. I'm using technology here that I've not used before. There we go. Let's see if we can. There we go. I think it's working. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so we're not going to go through this in detail. I'm asking you to download it, have a read, have a think. But let's just go through to explain what's in there. Well, typically these case studies are, as I say, the secondary research is typically 3 or 4 pages, and it starts with a little bit about the market, the industry. Now, in this case, we've got a business which we're looking at called Slide and Seek. And I've chosen this because I think it will be interesting to do another service sector business. And this business operates in what's known as a soft play market. Now, think, well, you know what it is. You know what a soft play centre is. We're probably all a bit old for it now. But when we were kids, it will be a place to be. So typically you start with some information. Let's just scroll through here a little bit. You start with some information about the size of the market. And we're told here that I'll just use the highlighter here just to see if this works. We're told some information about the size of the market. So let's have a look here. Let's just highlight that. And this is what we mean by annotating the research pack when you get the research pack. It's your copy. You can annotate, highlight, do what you like on it. Excuse me. So annual revenues of 500 million, 60 million visits to indoor soft play centres. Last year, average revenue per visitor. So already we've got some information that we might be able to use perhaps to talk about market share or market growth or whatever it is. There's some more information then about who uses it. Now, that's obviously going to be really useful when it comes to coming up with our marketing plan. We're told, for example, that indoor centres target predominantly families with children aged 0 to 12 years. They actually have sort of 6-month-olds with peak usage amongst ages 2 to 8. So this is a business that has quite a tightly defined target audience. And some more information about when centres open. That might be relevant. And there will always be something in these, let's just scroll down a little bit here. There will always be something in these cases that gives you information to be able to use excuse me, product life cycle and SWOT. So we're told that the number of soft play centres has grown from 600 to over 1,000, 1,100 today, but the rate of new openings has slowed. 90% are small single location businesses. Something about the costs involved in running a soft play segment. So some useful information there. A bit further down, we're told about how the market is growing. Let's highlight a bit of stuff there. Now, here's an example. Somebody asked in the live chat, can you talk about reliability and validity? Well, here's a little example for us. We're told, according to the UK's Indoor Play Association, that sounds like a trade association, the market is growing at 3 to 5%. So you can make a comment and say, according to the reliable, valid report from a trade association, the market is growing at 3 to 5%. So that's a comment on the secondary research, isn't it? Growing demand. And then there's always a section which you can use for your pestle and opportunities and threats. This one's called Key Influences, and it talks about how demand changes. So it talks about how demand is seasonal. It talks about pricing, peak and off-peak pricing. As soon as you see this, you think, well, okay, I can use some of this maybe for my pricing part of the marketing mix. If it's seasonal, maybe you try to, and it's maybe off-peak and peak, maybe you try to change your prices at different times of the year or different times of the week. We're given some information about economic factors. Well, I'm thinking pestle there. Rising costs, rising inflation, minimum wage. That could be useful for your pestle if you decide to do a pestle. And then there's quite a lot of stuff here about regulation. So obviously centres like this need to charge the national minimum wage. Well, businesses need to charge the national minimum wage. That's a legal requirement, and it says that the vast majority do, because they tend to be employing relatively young people. But therefore, you might say, well, a change in the national minimum wage is likely to be could be a threat, couldn't it, to the profitability of the business. So we can highlight there. Ollie's asking about highlighting. Yeah, you can do what you like. You can use highlighters. You can use arrows. You can maybe put an S next to a possible strength or T for a threat. You can do what you like in terms of annotating your copy of the research pack. And then it's working down a little bit. I'll let you have a read of this. Some information about. Let's just go into this a little bit here. This is a sector that is really quite tightly regulated, and quite rightly too. You want soft play centres to be safe, don't you? Therefore, there's quarterly safety inspections. They have to comply with all kinds of approvals, health and safety standards, maximum occupancy limits, noise control. There's a whole bunch of things that are specific to running this kind of leisure attraction. And if you don't meet those standards, if you don't look after them, don't focus on them, you can get closed down instantly. So that would be a threat, wouldn't it? Failure to do any of that. Let's have a look at what else we've got in here. A number of questions coming through about some things like product life cycle and SWOT. Well, we'll go through that in detail with this case study tomorrow night. But yeah, there's always enough information to be able to do a product life cycle. Some information about, and this is typical, about how operators in the market promote themselves. So every business uses digital marketing, of course, but in this case, some of these businesses are using what's known as, this is a new term for me, mumfluencers, which sounds like an influencer who's a mum. Family lifestyle bloggers, all that kind of stuff. That sounds like it could be quite a useful way of promoting a soft play centre. Also, here's a little bit down here. Let's just let's put this bit here. Now, don't forget, you need to do the 7 Ps. We'll go through this on Saturday. The 7 Ps, something like the physical environment or process. This will be vital, wouldn't it, for a soft play centre? So the process, and it says here, most centres have gone cashless, only accept payment by card or contactless, online booking, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be an important part of the marketing mix. Now, typically what you also get is 2 or 3 examples of campaigns that competitors have run. So there's some examples here. And lastly, a couple of pages on, or one page on some more detailed stuff about some competitors. So I've picked out a couple of competitors who operate several soft play centres in the UK. One called Play Valley, which is based near here in South Yorkshire, and another one called Party Man World, which operates 8 centres, predominantly in London. I think they've got one in Ipswich, in Cambridge, and Oxford as well. So I've picked out some examples of some bigger competitors, and the reason for doing this is, and you'll always find this in the research pack, is that when you see about the business in part B, there'll be a lot more detail about the business, about its products, what it charges, its prices, all that kind of stuff. And the aim is to compare and contrast that with 2 or 3 competitors in the main research pack to help make your decisions. So have a read through that, and that's it. That's the secondary research. Now, Nashita, I'll come to your question in about 2 seconds. I've put in a primary market research report in the format that you will find it next week. Have a read through that, see which of that is useful. I spent forever working on this. I've also come up with a brand new list of marketing media that you could use in your budget and timescale, which we'll look at on Sunday. So lots of the specific costs, booking school fairs, getting mumfluencers to post videos on TikTok, all that kind of stuff. So there might be some stuff in there we can use in our budget and timeline. And then that's it. Now, somebody was asking, well, Jim, what about part B? Well, because we want to move on to the whole thing from tomorrow and work our way through the whole case study, I've given you part B as well. So what I've just shown you was part A. That's what you get in part A. Here is why part B is so important. So I've given you a page and a half that tells you about the business, and you can now use this to start to make decisions about, firstly, which option you decide to use, but also start to write your SWOT, your product life cycle, and all that kind of stuff. So there is everything you need to know about Slide and Seek compared with local competitors, their pricing, all that kind of stuff. And lastly, I've given you 2 options. I've given you a £25,000 budget for 12 months, so a smaller budget this time. And they're looking at 2 options, either a loyalty scheme to provide incentives for regular customers, or working with influencers to promote the centre via social media. So up to you to have a think about which option would be best, and then build a marketing mix around that. But the aim, just to highlight it here on the screen, they want to significantly increase sales revenue in the next 12 months. Ammon Priest asking, do you have to relate everything back to the chosen option? Absolutely. Yeah. Choose an option, and then the aims and objectives flow from that, and everything that flows from it should be linked back to your aims and objectives and the option you've chosen, including the marketing mix. So there we go. So over to you. Now, just to pick up a couple of questions that have come through in the live chat, people are asking, how do I annotate the research pack? How do I summarize what's on there? Well, it's entirely up to you. You can annotate, you'll be given a physical copy of the research pack. It's up to you to annotate it in whatever way you wish. As long as you don't start scribbling a pre-prepared marketing plan, campaign, or budget on it, that's fine. That will also be checked before you go into Unit 2. And then your 2 sides of notes is just your aid memoir. It's just the key issues, maybe some things you want to remember. That's all you need to worry about on there. So there we go. So now over to you. If I just come back here, I'm going to close the session in a minute or 2, and then it's going to be over to you. So we're going to do it slightly different this year. I want to showcase your work and showcase your thoughts on this case study, and then we'll work our way through each of the detailed parts of Unit 2. We're going to start tomorrow with our SWOT and product life cycle. We might do PESTLE. I might be convinced to do it, but definitely product life cycle and SWOT analysis. But I'd also like to showcase some of your thoughts on the case study. So over to you. Download it, have a look through, and if you wish, put a comment in the recorded version of this live stream. It'll be the same link we're on now, with your thoughts on what a key theme is. So pick one. So why do you think it's a key theme for the business? How does it impact the business? How might it influence your choices of aims and objectives and marketing mix? Really interested to see what you think about the case study, because as soon as you start writing that kind of stuff, then you are starting to use the research pack. What we'll then do is we'll reconvene tomorrow at 5 o'clock, where we'll go through SWOT analysis and product lifecycle. So do a bit of revision on those, have a look through your thoughts on that, and then we'll then take another break and then come back. I'll set you a bit more homework, and then we'll come back and take a look at aims and objectives and the marketing mix in the following session. That's the plan. So hopefully you've found this session useful. It's recorded. I'll make sure all the links are working, and you'll be able to download both the case study and the 2 sides of notes. And look, give me a break, an hour or two, to go grab some food, and then I'll take a look on the comments as they come in to see what you think about the case study. Key themes, please, key ideas, key themes, key issues, and then we'll start to work on a worked answer for this. Thanks for joining me live. I appreciate it. A huge thanks to Karen and the rest of the crew who've been answering lots of questions as we go. We can't answer all the questions in this session because we're going to deal with those as we go through each of the detailed parts of Unit 2. So if your question's not been answered this time, don't worry. Ask it in the live chat or ask it in the comments anyway. We'll try and get back to you, but it will certainly be covered in upcoming sessions. But for now, thanks for joining me. See you tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Cheers.